I would like to invite to the stage our next speakers, Suvi Ihaksi and Emmi Sallinen, who are going to discuss about how to focus on essential Agile at Finnair. So let's hope that we can get Suvi and Emmi there. Hey, how are you?
Great, thanks. Bit nervous, but
that's understandable. Okay, before we start, I would like to ask you a few questions. So I'm very curious about that. What's your story? So how did you actually end up here talking about Finnair and the change in Finnair?
Well, maybe I can start with that one. Originally we thought that we would be sharing the story about how we have built agile practices in our development at Finnair. But then, as the COVID has hit the travel industry so heavily, we thought that it's kind of more interesting to think about what has helped us now during the COVID times. So we thought to update our story a bit and instead of, or in addition to what we thought earlier, to also share a bit light on what we have been using now during the COVID times, what has helped us from our Agile essentials.
Okay. Normally we have only just one speaker, but actually there are two of you now here. So why did you decide to make a presentation as a duo?
well, I think originally it started so that Suvi asked that who would be interested in to go to this ScanAgile, and then I was super excited. Yeah, I want to go, and then Suvi was, well, I want to go too, and then we discussed, well, what if we go together, that we can bring two different views. So I'm as a Scrum Master more from the team point of view, and then Suvi from our platform point of view more, so we can bring two different views to the topic. So then we thought that maybe it's interesting to go there together, and yeah.
I think that is interesting. So you mentioned that you changed your presentation a bit since the COVID-19 hit very heavily on aviation industry. So how it has affected you in practice?
Well, of course, it causes a lot of uncertainty in the work on a daily basis, but also it encourages you to think about how you can cope now with this situation. And also, at least personally, I have, for example, started some new hobbies or this kind of mini projects at home also to learn some new things. So I added there also one picture where I'm trying to figure out some chords on guitar. So that's one of my new hobbies during this time.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Maybe we don't let the audience wait that what happens next. So maybe we give this podium to you. So can you share your slides so I can check it out, that we can see them, and then the stage is yours actually.
Let me see. Okay, looks like that the sharing is not working as expected.
Okay, don't worry.
Yeah,
this is not the first time we have experienced some technical problems. Do you wish that Mika could share the slide?
Maybe if Mika could share the slide. I think this looks like that it's not like working.
Okay, Mika comes to a rescue. Okay, slides are visible. You have to just remember to give hints to Mika when to change the slide. Okay, thank you, Emmi and Suvi. Stage is yours. Good luck.
All right. Hey, thanks. It's great to be here and to share a little bit background of our story from Finnair. So, yeah, as discussed already, we changed our story quite a bit. So we wanted to bring the story to this pandemic times and how we have been coping with that one. This new situation has triggered a lot of new thinking and forced us also to stop a bit on these topics. And in the picture, you can actually see one very good example where one of our passenger planes has been converted to a cargo plane instead, so carrying cargo instead of passengers. On the next slide, we are showing the overview of the thanks. Very smooth transition. All right. So here you can see an overview of our presentation. So we will first go through some of these essentials from Agile principles that we have brought into our ways of working, and then we will share a bit what out of these we have been using after the pandemic hit and what has helped us during the way. On the next slide, let's start a bit with the history. So in 2016, Finnair decided that we will start insourcing our digital development. The need came from, first of all, the growth. So we needed, or we wanted to have better services, but also from the need to have faster development and faster responses to the customer needs. So these were very much driving our insourcing activities. Also, we wanted to become more independent from our vendors who had been developing these things earlier, and where we had very long lead times to get new things to the market. So when we started this insourcing activity, we also decided to go to do the development with Agile methods. So those were established also during that time, and that decision was made. And since then, we have been developing these practices, and then also taking those into our daily work. If you go to the next slide, please. So when we talk about digital development, we talk about the digital platform. So all of the Finnair services that the customers are seeing. In practice, that means the Finnair mobile app, the entertainment on board in the planes, also the Wi-Fi services there, and Finnair.com services. And one area that people often don't realize belongs to Finnair is the Aurinkomatkat. So that's also part of this context. Last year, we had about 80 people working on these services, our Finnair employees and also consultants. Of course, this is then the development crew, but then we have also a lot of internal stakeholders with whom we are thinking always that what services should we build next and with whom we are interacting very heavily on a daily basis. If you go to the next one, please. So in 2017, we started a big recruitment to get these services teams up and running. So we only had one person who had a long Finnair history and background who started to build these teams. And then the recruitment happened so that we got people with very different backgrounds from different industries, different companies together to start forming these new teams. Also, at some point, we calculated how many nationalities we had and ended up in 17. So it's also a very international organization and international team that we built then. One thing that we decided very early on when starting the work was that the line organization and the actual teams that are working for these new services are completely different. And the main part of the leading and target setting comes through these agile teams and not the line organization. And this is something that has guided us during this team setup and formation all the time continuously. Second thing that we also were looking into was this, that we wanted to have necessary competencies needed from starting to design a service to delivering it inside the teams. So we wanted to have teams where we have product owners, technical expertise, development and testing competencies, as well as the Scrum Master competencies, all in the same team. Design was also a very essential part of the team so that we can have the customer centricity also in the work. And this is something where this has all the time been the kind of a guiding principle for our team formation. Sometimes we have struggled to get all of these viewpoints in, but it has been guiding us all along the way. If you go to the next one. Mika. Thanks. So then we were talking about these Agile essentials, what those then have been for us, what we have selected since the very beginning to work with. So there are basically 3 areas that we wanted to introduce. First thing was that we wanted to have enough practices to get started with this platform approach. So we wanted to have some practices across the teams which are aligning us and making us work, helping us work together. Second area was co-creation culture. So this is something that we wanted to have in our ways of working and in our working culture very heavily. And third area, trust and ownership, also since the very beginning. About the practices that we chose to introduce across the teams, we had 2 basic things in mind what we started with. So first one was prioritization. So for this digital platform, we set up prioritization practices, and we had this had like priorities from 1 to X set up, and it was something that was for us very important to get work started, but for the organization around us, a new thing to get used to. So during the first half year with this priority introduction, we saw a lot of escalations when people felt that if their topic was not number 1 or in top 3, they felt that they are not getting heard, and then they escalated it. But nowadays, I would say that the prioritization is more, well, it's still not easy, but it's something that people are now used to, and they know how to then get their voices heard. And then second topic that we introduced as these basic practices was this kind of joint quarterly planning that we do together with our teams and stakeholders. So we have been running what we call Agile Planning Days, very similar to PI planning in SAFE. We have been running those since the beginning, and those have provided us a good place to align our thinking about what we are going to do next, and also to stay aligned with our stakeholders so they also know where we are and what we are focusing on. From the co-creation culture, there we have 2 viewpoints. So first one is that we want to co-create new services with the customers, meaning that we take them on board in this development process. We do a lot of research, but then also a lot of prototypes that we want to test with our customers. So getting their voices heard also during that time. And then the second area where we have co-creation culture is the ways of working. So we have been developing those together with our teams and also keep developing those constantly. So it's definitely not a one-time effort, but something that has to continue all the time.
Then a bit from the team's point of view, a bit deeper. So what this trust and ownership has meant to us from the beginning. So in our case, we trust to our teams heavily and so that they own their services, which in practice mean that they are the best ones to tell when the service is, for example, ready for production. So we don't have any gatekeeper there. If the team feels that, okay, that this is now ready and we are comfortable to go with to production with this one, so then they can do it. And this has led to situation that we release items to production several times per day. And there is one of our deployment dashboards there visible. So we are also visualizing this a lot, that how much we deliver items to customers. And also this is the ownership of the teams has the ownership of the services. So the same people who are developing them are also maintaining our services. So whatever maintenance, bug fixing or something is needed, the same people who have in the beginning made those, they will also do all this kind of work. Of course, we have some cases which are, for example, GDPR or security related, when we can then bring our internal experts then to tell us that if there is something special that needs to take an account. So we have acknowledged together that there is, of course, something that we don't have all the knowledge in our teams, but then we can use different experts for those, so that we respect the different regulations and our customers' data. But on top of that, the teams are in the end responsible of their own services as a team. And then I think we can continue to the next one.
Yeah, so from this build-up phase, one of the big achievements that we had was that we made it to the most attractive IT industry employers list. So earlier we had not been noticed there at all, but we got there into the top 10 list and stayed there for 2 years. So I think that was a really interesting and exciting thing for us to make it there. We have also seen that our output has been increasing systematically during this time. So it has been also been nice to observe that. Then let's see what happened then when we got the nice little thing called COVID-19. So when the pandemic hit us. If you go forward, please. So early this year, we started hearing about the new virus, and then also this hit us really heavily. If you go to the next slide, you can see that everything paused. So these pictures are taken from our office here, where we are also right now. And what you can see here is something, the scene is very different from the usual day that we had 1 year back. So the planes are on the ground, and then you can see that on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side you can see a view to our Finnair kitchen parking space, which is empty, meaning that very few people are at work. And this is kind of a thing that happened to us that also when you go to the next page, you can see the same in the numbers. So our capacity measured by seat kilometers was also reducing really heavily. Can you press arrow up once so that you can see the actual
I think
numbers?
it's not working, the PowerPoint.
All right. All right.
Then you don't see our figures.
Yes, but I can tell you that the seat kilometers dropped by 97%. So we saw a really huge drop in the third quarter in these numbers. If you look very carefully there on the right-hand side, you can see the blue horizontal bar or horizontal line there. That is where the seat kilometers were in June compared to the kilometers last year, which is on the top. So a very dramatic drop. And if you look at these numbers, they really tell a story about how we had to stop, and how we also had to think what we should do right now. If you go forward, so we wanted to summarize here on a timeline also a bit about what happened then next. So in February, we were still very much in a working, well, like business as usual. So we started to hear from China that, hey, there is something happening, and also some of the flights there were started to be cancelled. But other than that, our work was proceeding pretty much as is. Then in March, we, as I think most of you others as well, started to work mainly remotely. And then also during March, then the reality hit us really heavily. This is what you saw also on the graph earlier, but also what it then impacted on our side was that we had company-wide layoffs and heavy capacity reductions in the traffic side, but also it meant that our development priorities were re-evaluated really heavily. Earlier we had a long list of prioritized items, and now all of a sudden we had like a handful of prioritized items that we had to think how to work with. With all these layoffs that we had to plan and these new priorities, we also saw that we will not have enough people to run with our normal team structure, and we had to rethink about how we now are going to work during the springtime and the summertime throughout the vacation time. So in just 2 weeks' time, we planned fully this working mode from April until end of August, how we would be working at that time. At the same time, while we were planning this, we had to think also that how can we support our people to cope with this time when people were remote and there was a lot of uncertainty. So we had to also support them in this situation. What I was happy about in this very unhappy situation and it was really heavy to do this planning, but what I was happy about that we did was that we still wanted to take people into the planning process. So when, for example, deciding these layoff schedules for temporary layoffs for us and for consultants, we were still discussing with people that what would make most sense from these high priority topics viewpoint, how can we still keep the operations up and running, and how to also fit the possible personal preferences or some topics from that side to these plans. It was definitely very tough times, but we survived then the summer, even with all these layoffs and special times. Of course, what we then started to also see was that it was not all that rosy, so we had to let go some of the practices that we had previously had. And then also what we saw that some people started to leave because, of course, the uncertainty means that some people wanted to make their own choices and then look for possibilities elsewhere. If you go forward, we wanted to summarize here a little bit what from these Agile essentials we still wanted to maintain also during this survival mode time. So what we had also during this very special time was that we had still working agreements set up or discussed with these new temporary teams so that they know how they would work and how things would go. This was especially important because now this temporary setup meant that there were many people working together who had never worked together before, and also they were working fully remotely, which was very unusual for us who had earlier been working very much here on site in the same premises all together. Other practices that we kept running, one was Scrum of Scrums meetings that we have had every week. And this was something that was interesting was that we had a record number of participants in the Scrum of Scrums meetings because everybody was eager to hear what's going on. And for many, this was the if not the only, but at least a very good place where to hear things happening inside the digital platform as a whole. So we had very many people participating in these ones. And second practice that we also kept going was bi-weekly demos. And it was also for us very, I would say, surprising to see how much there was to show in these demos. So even with very limited number of people working, we still had something valuable being produced and demonstrated and deployed even during this time. Then let's see what happened after the summer. summer period and how to get from the survival mode into more sustainable mode. So yes.
Yeah, so after the summer, we knew that there will be a lot of people coming back from the layoffs and holidays. So basically it meant that people have been away a long time. And then we were still in this survival mode team setup, which was meant to be a temporary. And also after the summer, it was easy to see that this corona situation will last long, and also the company acknowledged it. And that meant that we want to find some more sustainable way to do the development, even though the circumstances are very difficult and uncertain, but at the same time we knew that everyone wants to have meaningful things to do and team capable to deliver items. So what we decided to do was that we gathered people together, and then within these limitations, with this group that we still have here, we decided together that what kind of team setup we want to have. And we did several iteration rounds for this also, and agreed different basic ways of working, and did this work after the summer holidays. So, and after the same time, we got still the heavy prioritization from our EB level, and also Finnair started this big YT negotiations that which every one of you have probably heard from the news. So at the same time, we still continued with our own team planning, and this tells that we didn't want to paralyze, because our ways of working and team setup is completely different than our line management, or they are not tied together. So it wasn't a problem for us in a way that we still can decide by ourselves that how we want to work, and that's not changed. Also, what helped us was that our Agile Planning Day, which about Suvi told you before, we knew that it's coming. So also it gave us a goal that we have something that everyone knows. It's common practice. It's everyone is familiar with the event. So it also helped us that we knew that there is a day when we want to have this new team setup and ways of working up and running. So there was also kind of like we had set the date that now we need to have something in place.
Yeah, what was also really nice to see in the company, what was happening elsewhere outside the digital development side, was that there were some new services also being created also during this time. So nice to see that there was some new innovation. I already mentioned about this cargo example, but then second example that was recently launched was the Aurinkomatkat holidays to Lapland. So that was also another new start after this COVID times hit us. Currently, we are in the situation where we don't know the future. We don't know how the travel restrictions will evolve, but also from the personal level, we see that we don't know what will happen. So today, we expect that our big UT process is ending, but we don't know about the future yet. But we are not letting that push us down, so we still wanted to come here and present what we are working on currently.
And then let's see what, if you go to the next slide, so we have collected a few essentials. So in this sustainable mode, what helped us a lot when we started to plan was that this co-creation culture. So when we created this new team structure and with the ways of working also, it was very important that we involve those people who are still here, still to the process. So we didn't dictate it from any like a higher level. So this was very important that everyone gets heard, and we had several different workshops or anonymous questionnaires and different ways to tell your opinion so that everyone gets heard. Also, this planning day, which was first time we run it remotely or partially remotely, was something that we were surprised how well it was actually working like that, and it got very good feedback also, that teams were actually very happy this remote setup, that it helped to focus. And then third is the focus and priorities. So as we have said, we got very good priorities from the EB, but also in our case, we have made clear all the time that what are the things that we should now focus on, that everyone has meaningful things to do, and also that why these are important for Finnair right now. So even the company is in a difficult situation, we want to highlight that why these are the exact features that we should be doing right now and how they help Finnair in this situation. So this has been also very important for us right now. And if you go to the next slide, and we are soon reaching the end of the presentation. So what we have now accomplished then during this past roughly 6 months, if we watch back. So coming back to those essentials that Suvi mentioned in the beginning, so related to those, these basic practices we have built has also showed that they are very resilient. So these practices have showed their biggest value actually in the past months, that we spent several years to create those, but also the kind of like that they are scalable up and down, and the remote work and everything that has been very important finding for us, and also kind of like brought us very much kind of like trust that this is correct direction. And then a second highlight here is the ownership. So this co-creation culture has brought the ownership, which has kept us improving and delivering. So as we told you examples that like how much we have had things to demo, and people have been very active in different kind of events and still wanted to participate and join the things. It has been great to see. And also we have heard this kind of like sentences that how I package my work so that somebody can continue at some point. So even though we don't know who the people are, is it me or is it the teammate there or who it is, we still want that this work will be continued. So it has been great to see that kind of ownership that we have had. Then third highlight is the personal growth. So we have seen a unique growth story and commitment from our teams. So people want to still watch to the future together, even though they don't know that what the future actually is, or are they there personally actually. So everyone who has decided to stay with us here has made a great growth story as a person, but also in the team, so that they want to really stay together and be here. So that has been very kind of like unique, and something that I think that no one was expecting at any point, that it will be really like that. So in the next slide, we want to leave you one thought that that we have seen. If you go, Mika, to the next slide, that as you have heard from us, that changing the organization and people's ways of working, it doesn't happen in a day. So we have done this journey years, and suddenly our business changed very quickly. So that is something that we want you to remember from this one, that whatever happens, you need to be then ready, and your practices and teams need to be able to scale to all these different scenarios that you thought that won't ever happen. Thank you. I think we can end the presentation to this. So now it's probably the questions and answers section.
Hey, thank you, Emmi and Suvi. That was really interesting to hear. And let's see what kind of questions we have in the questions and answers section. Okay, we have one from Annina Loimu. So, how has the leadership been supporting you in this situation?
Do you want to answer to this one?
Yes, I'm just thinking how to answer that one. So I have felt that here, like for me at least, I have felt that Finnair is quite good actually in handling this kind of exceptional situations in general. So I have seen a lot of good things across the company. And in the digital side also, I would say that we have been doing these things, what we were mentioning together with all the leaders who are working with this digital area. So both from the development side, but also from the business side. So these things have been planned very much together, and these changes have been thought of together. Because, for example, in our teams that we were describing, the people are coming from different teams, so we need a lot of people to be involved in all the decisions, for example, related to these areas.
Jenny, you are muted.
Yes.
Hands off, hands off. So what exactly happens in the Agile Planning Day? That's one question.
Maybe starting from what happens before it, because that's something that's super important. So always before the planning day, we want to have a prioritized list of epics that we use as the basis for the cross-team planning. So we want to have the top priority items in the correct priority order and agreed with our stakeholders. So that's the first thing that has to be in place before we can go to the planning day. And then in the planning day, maybe Emmi, you want to answer what happens there?
Yeah, in the planning day. Yeah, in the planning day, the idea is basically that we set the goal or goals for the next few months. In our case, we are talking about usually roughly 3 months. And then the team roughly tells that how much they can commit to deliver. So the idea is that we go through the epics and features from the priority list, and when some team reaches their capacity that they feel that okay, this is enough, that we can't take more, then we reach the limit, and then our stakeholders know that okay, we don't expect more. And also in these cases we can see that okay, that this team is already out of capacity, but these people have, so could they maybe help the others? And so this kind of also balancing we can see there. But it's for ourselves that we can set a goal that, okay, we will deliver this feature which helps our customers this and this and this way, but also for the stakeholders then to communicate for them that what they can expect. And also we can see that if, for example, some ad hoc feature comes during the planning cycle, we can communicate that, okay, this was then more important than the something else that was planned in the planning day, and we can communicate that this is actually now excluded from the cycle because this more important ad hoc thing appeared suddenly, which always happens, as everyone knows. So then we can we have something to refer that okay, that okay, because this was suddenly more important. So yeah, but that is basically what happens, setting the goals and counting the capacity and communicating that to stakeholders that what they can expect.
And maybe one thing I could still add there is this, that kind of there's some drama every now and then as well. So usually the morning part goes like smooth and silky and all good, and then sometime after lunch everybody feels a little bit drowsy, and then all of a sudden one team runs out of capacity. So we see that okay, what do we do now? We are not able to proceed unless we do something about this. So either we change the priorities or find teams to help with other teams to help with these topics or things like that. So that's when the interesting part starts, and that's why that's what the days are needed for. So sorting out these kind of things on the spot right there and then. So that's why we have those days, and why I see them very valuable.
Co-creation, I would say then. Hey, we again, as usual, run out of time for the questions. There are quite many of those, but I bet that in the after work section, you can maybe stay for a while so people can meet you face to face and continue asking those good questions that you have filed in the questions and answers. So Emmi and Suvi, thank you very, very much from this presentation.
Thanks
a lot.
And thanks Mika for handling the slides.
Yeah, exactly. It was a surprise.
And we have Hilkka. You can get the applauses too.
Yeah. So now I would like to ask everyone of the organizing team to join to the stage. And if Mika can share the slides one more time. So next we would like to reflect together. I hope you have answered to the Menti question, yeah? So has anyone, please raise your hand if you gave us any feedback to Menti. Or please give it in the chat. So we would like to hear, what do you think went well for the organizing team and you as a participant? If there's something you would like to stop doing, we have a really, really long iteration cycle in ScanAgile. So we do this only once a year. This time we had to change it to 6 events, but usually we are doing the conference once a year. So feedback is super valuable. And if you have ideas for the next ScanAgile or for the future or for Agile Finland, please share. Mika, would you like to join the stage too? And what about the others?
I think we have Annina, Elina, and Mervi also in the audience. Please join us.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people can fit here.
Now we test the system.
Yeah, now we test the system. So Elina is there. Elina, yeah, hi. So please, we ask for your feedback. Could you write on the chat, what went well, what would you like us doing, ideas for the future? Anything? And then Salom joined us, great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are definitely testing. Yeah. Okay. So, Mika, can you change the Menti? Has anyone answered in the Menti? What should we do next time? Or please share our feedback on the chat. Okay. So let's see what kind of things have been written to Menti. As the first time I loved, okay, it's really super difficult to read. The virtual conferences work well, no technical issues at all. Some slide sharing issues happened. Okay, but Mika has been really good yet. Okay, and someone has loved the table discussions. Great response in moving it online. Yeah, we are really happy about it. What do you feel, others? Please your comment on the things. Teams and presentations are great. More time to and clear and easy instructions. Okay. Long breaks. So stop doing long breaks. Long breaks were too long for many people. Yeah, we showed exceptional agility in transforming the event to online event. And Remo has worked well. That's happy to hear. Yeah, and it was really nice. ScanAgile happened despite of COVID. And technical platform worked. There's no stop doing stuff. Would be cool if the tech platform would allow to jump between tables and speakers. No need to stop corridors talking during the presentation. Yeah, this didn't happen in Remo. Are there more answers, Mika? Very good platform for facilitating. Yes. A little bit for more time for workshops. In future, a mix of virtual and in-person conference could be good. Workshops in person and presentation and keynotes would be streamed. So that's something to think for the next year's organizers. Yeah, long breaks, plus stop long breaks. Yeah, bit more time for workshops. Would someone like to, someone from the organizing team like to comment on something else?
I think we have something in the chat. Yeah, maybe we could have workshops for the larger groups. It's good that you like the workshops. I would like to have more. inspiring talks, great discussion in the breaks. There are people who enjoyed the bit longer breaks. So it's a balancing all the time. Thank you for the wonderful presentations. But this is good, I think. It's a good starting point us when we start planning the next big, real, honest, live event.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining. I hope you stay for after work with us. Thank you to all the organizers. Please say hi to participants that are still live. Yeah. We really love to have you here, and thank you for everyone who submitted talks, because we were not able to get everyone here. So in case you submitted, talk and you were chosen, there was so many good talks this year. So that happens. Yeah, okay, and we will continue with the after work. So thanks for joining. Organizing team for joining, and this is applause for everyone who participated.
How long applauses, Mika, you choose to this moment?
Mika, maybe this is enough.
Hey, remember, we'll see you next week at the coaching circle.
Yeah, this is you're getting the blush in the cheeks.
Yeah. So I hope people can join for us for after work. So Mika, to be able to get back to the tables.
Yeah. We don't want any more applauses.
Let's go back to the tables.
Okay.
This is funny.